Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels, and thank you to our supporters Mr Fothergill Seeds and Cobra Garden. Today I'm going to be planting vegetables in containers and putting some cut flowers in the veg plot. Lots of people are having a go at growing their own veg and salads at the moment, which is great, and I always think when you can grow it and pick it, it tastes absolutely wonderful. Now if you haven't got much room to grow them in the garden, don't worry, because as long as you've got a little patio or a balcony or somewhere where you can stand a few pots and containers, then you can still grow quite a lot. And being as it's only early June, we've still got the whole of the summer ahead of us, so you'll get some lovely results. Quite a lot you can grow from seed, so get the seeds, get some containers, you know, things like peas for example, Monge 2 or the dwarf peas. These are some that I'd sowed in this pot weeks and weeks ago now. These will soon be flowering and we'll be getting the pods, but it's not too late to sow them out now into pots. Dwarf French beans, still plenty of time, and then we've got all the salads. We could do baby carrots, beetroot, spring onions, so quite a lot that you can do in pots. If you're doing seed, then obviously you're going to need some pots or containers, and this sort of shallow pan like this is ideal for salad leaves and lettuce. They don't need a lot of depth, so you're going to save some compost. I'm a big fan of terracotta normally, but when it comes to growing vegetables, I prefer plastic, because plastic will retain the moisture longer than terracotta, which is great on a hot, warm day like today. So it reduces the watering, and they last years and years, so don't worry about them being plastic. You know, you just recycle them by using them over and over again. So if I were sowing some mixed lettuce like this, all I would do is fill this with some multi-purpose compost, break up any lumps, then lightly firm it down, sprinkle the seed nice and evenly over the surface, a little bit of compost over the top, give it a good water, and then stand it somewhere shady to germinate, because if you put them out in the hot sun, the surface will dry off very quickly and they might not germinate. So somewhere shady to get them going, and once they're growing, keep them watered and you'll soon be picking them. The other way you can do it is to start plants off in plug trays, or if you can't do that, because at the minute garden centres have got loads of plug plants and young vegetables that you can buy. So I'm going to do some in this, and literally if you're buying young vegetable plants like this young lettuce, and this is one of the oak leaf ones, it's just a case in a bowl like this. You don't need masses and masses, because these fill out and make a really bushy plant. So I'm probably only going to need a maximum of about half a dozen in this pot. So it's just a case of take them out like that, and then compost in there. I'm going to put some around the edge, so it's just a case of dibber them in with your finger and plant them as you go round. Let's put one in the middle just there, and just make sure that they're in deep enough so they don't rock around. Just lightly firm them in, level the compost, give it a bit of a tap, and there you go. It really is as simple as that. All you need to do is give that a good soak in, again let it establish, and these will grow really quickly. So literally in a couple of weeks you can start picking them, and the beauty of these is if you just pick the leaves, they keep producing more and more over the summer. So we'll pop that just down there. Other things you can do, you know, things like tomatoes, outdoor tomatoes. Now we often grow the tall ones that need support of canes, but there are some really good hanging basket ones. So again, just a plastic hanging pot like this. This is a variety of tomato that's readily available in garden centres called Tumbling Tom. You can get them with red, orange or yellow cherry sized fruits. They are quite vigorous, so you only need one plant in a 12-inch basket. Again, multi-purpose compost. Just make sure that we get it in nice and deep, and then put that into the centre of the basket. Just make sure you don't snap anything. You can see it's already in flower, so this one is going to grow really quickly. And how these work is there's no pinching out of any shoots. They naturally branch out and it will cascade over the side of the basket, and literally in a matter of 6 weeks time we'll be picking fruits off this one. Keep it well watered once a week with the tomato fertiliser. Other things you can do if you're buying plants from garden centres are things like kale. This is a dwarf kale. Now normally we'd plant this in the garden, but if you've got a pot and you stick 3 or 4 of these in a pot, they look quite attractive with the foliage, but again from late summer onwards you can pick the leaves and use them in stir fries or steam them, and they'll keep going right the way through the autumn. So lots of the brassicas again you can use. And then finally, potatoes. Potatoes lend themselves to growing in pots, and I always grow several. The one that I've got just down here on the floor was one that was planted in the polytunnel about 10 weeks ago. So another couple of weeks they'll be ready to harvest them, and we'll show you those in a few weeks' time. I cheat a little bit. If you've got some potatoes that have started to sprout like this one here, then just take about a 4 or 5 inch pot, bit of compost in the bottom, stand your tuber in it and fill that with some compost to the top, and let it have a drink of water and just leave it to grow. Now obviously that pot isn't big enough to grow it in, but in about 2 or 3 weeks time you will have a plant like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to plant that into a pot. It just means you can start these off somewhere without having to have a lot of space. And then I'm going to take that out. I've got a pot full of compost, going to make a nice deep hole in the center. So I'm going to bury it probably to about that height, pop that down into there, and then top it up with the compost around it. So we've started that off. And normally from putting it in a pot like this to be able to get potatoes is about 13-14 weeks depending on the variety of potato. Outside this time of the year, keep it well watered, never let it dry out, and you'll enjoy those lovely new potatoes. So there is loads you can be doing now. Put them together in a little group on your patio, keep them watered, keep them fed. They look attractive, but of course the benefit is you're going to be able to eat them. Well, we're finishing off in the veg plot looking at some cut flowers. I always like to grow a few cut flowers in the veg garden. It just makes it look nice and attractive. They help to attract pollinating insects, and they're lovely to cut and take into the house through the summer months. The perennial ones that come back year after year, things like the foxgloves are in flower, the alstroemeres are starting, and the lovely scented pinks we're picking as well at the moment. But what I'm going to do here is plant out some annuals. These are hardy annuals that I started off in some cell trays like this, and I've got a mixture of all sorts of things that we can use for cut flowers. We've got cosmos there, we've got larkspurs which are lovely, nigella with its blue flowers, and then gypsophilia, which is a great filler in with a bunch of flowers. So literally all it is a case of popping them out of the cell and then planting them straight into the garden. So just dig a hole, make sure that we firm them in nicely so they're standing upright like that. And then what we do need to do, of course, on a day like today is make sure we give them a really good water in. Don't normally like to water in the sun, but if I leave these they'll wilt, so I'm going to give them a drink now. They will be fine, and then later this evening I'm going to give them another one, and they'll settle in, start to grow really quickly, and then through the summer months we'll have loads and loads of lovely annual flowers to cut. Well, thank you for watching Pots and Trowels, and thank you for telling all your friends about us. Next time I'm going to be tending the rhubarb, and we're going to be giving you some tips on watering around the garden.